Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening on the audio, you're listening to my regular YouTube live stream, Ask James, where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. Before we get into the questions, just to timestamp this, it's just gone 3 p.m. UK time on Friday, September the 10th. A roundup of the critical FPL team news ahead of game week 4. Heung-min Son is expected to miss out for Tottenham at Crystal Palace. Ben White is one of a number of players expected back for Arsenal this weekend. For Leicester, we know Jose Perez is suspended. Ricardo Pereira is fit. So too Ryan Bertrand. They both trained. For Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says Cristiano Ronaldo will definitely be on the pitch at some point. Personally, I'd be extremely surprised if he doesn't start. Jadon Sancho is also fit. For Newcastle, who travel to Old Trafford, no Callum Wilson is a thigh injury with no specified return date. João Pedro is back in training for Watford. For Chelsea, Reece James is suspended. N'Golo Kante, Christian Pulisic both out. Tyrone Mings is one of a number of players back fit for Aston Villa. For Leeds, Dan James could make a debut. Dallas, Firpo and Click all available. Roberto Firmino is out for Liverpool, but no specified timeline on his injury status either. Seamus Coleman could make an appearance for Everton on Monday night. He's got a hamstring issue, but because the game's Monday, he's not been ruled out as yet. Godfrey and Mina have trained. New Burnley signing Maxwell Cornet needs to be assessed after suffering a dead leg for the Ivory Coast. That's a summary of your big team news for game week 4. On Brazilian players, the status as it stands is we don't know. None of us know. My gut instinct on this is they're all going to be allowed to play. But you need to keep an eye on the news. At the time of recording now, we don't know if they're going to be allowed to play or not. The fact that Raul Jimenez looks like he's been given the thumbs up by Mexico to play for Wolves. Miguel Almiron from Paraguay to play for Newcastle has also been given the thumbs up. We think Ciaralta of Watford will probably be given the thumbs up by Chile as well. That makes me think that there's every chance that the Brazilian players will be allowed to play. Stay close to the news. If you're thinking of transfers, I wouldn't make any till you get some confirmation of that, unless it doesn't involve any Brazilian players at all. Let's get into the questions. Mohammed says, hi James, hope you're doing well. Looking forward to the stream, thank you. FPL team Peter says, good day all. Good day, Peter. Peter's a patron of Planet FPL, so I'll give him a plug. Have a look at him on Twitter. FPL team, got a brilliant planning tools, Peter. Stark Lassic, brilliant channel, thanks James. Hope to avoid wildcard until game week 7, but with Sunny out and Target, Smith Rowe, Shimikas, Obafemi lingering in the squad, I probably can't avoid it all at this point, right? So Target's got a bad fixture. Admittedly, he's got bad fixtures to come. Shimikas is a problem. Obafemi's a problem. Smith Rowe, I probably should have added into the team news at the start, has been ill the majority of the week, and I think he's probably unlikely to start. But is it a player you're desperate to get rid of? I mean, you mentioned there 4 non-essential kind of players in terms of their budget players. -4 can fix that, I think, mate. Lamichi says, hi James, would you do Son to Jota for free or any other midfielder under 10 million? And would you take a -4 to move Tony to Dominic Calvert-Lewin? So yes, I would definitely move Son to Jota. I haven't decided for sure on my transfers, but my plan is a -4. That's to remove Emi Martinez, Shimikas and Sonny. Sonny was probably going to go for me anyways. I think confirms it with him now unlikely to play. And I'm likely to bring in Jose Sarr of Wolves, Antonio Rudiger of Chelsea and Diogo Jota of Liverpool. So, I mean, if you can make that transfer for free, get it done. My outlook on Jota without the full Firmino picture is, particularly next week, even in 20-25 minutes against Crystal Palace, he could do damage, probably at Brentford the week after. And I'm likely to end up in a position where I've got a spare player, essentially, with what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm probably going to be benching either Ricardo Pereira or Jack Harrison this week. Again, I haven't decided which one as yet. And they both got decent fixtures next week. So actually picking my team next week will be difficult. There's every chance I will downgrade either a Harrison or a Harvey Barnes to a 4.5 million. That then allows me to move Danny Ings up to Romelu Lukaku. I will probably go a week early in game week 6. That's my current thinking at the moment. I can't go on those planned transfers. I can't go Ings to Lukaku for a -8. I'd be just short So I think those are the best transfers for my teams. To force Lukaku in, I could go Ben White and Sanchez instead of Sarr and Rudiger. I don't want to, though. I don't think that makes my team as strong. And it still wouldn't be enough. If, in case you're thinking that would allow me Lukaku, it wouldn't allow me Cristiano Ronaldo. I would basically need to take a -12 to get Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not doing it when this is the only week I'd want to captain him. For those who do have him, I'll answer some of your questions now. Yep, I'd stick the armband on him. I think he'll play. In terms of Tony to DCL for a -4, no. No, I don't think so. Tony has a decent fixture. Calvert-Lewin is fit, according to Rafa Benitez. We suspected he would be. I think he was pulled out of the England squad as precautionary reasons. But no, I wouldn't do it for a -4. For free, yes, I would. John O'Sullivan says, Ben Rama or Fornals, might Alonso keep starting? Sorry for asking 2 questions. You're okay, John. Ben Rama or Fornals, I think you still go with Ben Rama, generally speaking. Go with the ownership at the moment. Still a few good fixtures for West Ham still to come. So if you want some of that, I would still prefer Ben Rama. If you've got a very template team, you may want to go Fornals instead. Or Marcus Alonso, I think the immediate answer is yes. But the Champions League is restarting. So is Alonso ahead of Chilwell to the extent that Alonso would be prioritised in the Champions League? I would think probably not. But with that restarting, Chelsea and changing of wing-backs, for me, it's just a complete no-go area. Ben Chilwell, as far as I'm aware, is available. It's just Marcus Alonso's actually played alright in the first 3 games. It probably won't continue forever. Craig Davis says, hi James, do you think Ronaldo will start? As covered. If you've got any Ronaldo questions, feel free to delete them. I'll probably just skip them. If you can buy him for free, buy him. No doubt about it. If you can get him very easy for a -4 and stick the armband on him, do it. Do I think he'll start? Yes. Haswell says, hi James, hope you're well. Would you wildcard a team with Martinez, Shimikas, Barnes, Son, Ings, Wilson and a pretty rubbish bench? I think I'd make 11 changes total. If you want to make 11 changes, yep, pull out the wildcard, mate. Yep, honestly, if that's how many you think you want to make. In my case, to make the team that I'd ideally want, I think I'd still keep half of the squad I got to get my ideal kind of perfect team right now. So it's not worth it for me. Darren Malloy says, I somehow have got to a Tierney versus Semedo choice on wildcard. Would you take a punt on one of them? So one of the things I was considering as an alternative to say to Sarr and White as a possibility was the idea of going Sanchez and Semedo. In that case, I wouldn't have gone Sanchez and Tierney. And I think that's why I'd favour Semedo. I'm not big on any of the Wolves 4.5s. I think Cody's probably the safest. And that really fucking is dullard. So I'd want to pay the extra for Semedo, I think. Although Bradley Parker's not keen on him. But it's a good long stretch and you can put it in, you can leave it. I would prefer Semedo. Mainly because Ben White's availability it's currently 4.4, but there's every chance to be 4.3 tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, it'll probably be Sunday. Savant says, hi James, hope you're well. I already used my free transfer and I'm now thinking of doing Son to Jota for a -4. Livramento and Ayling on my bench options. Thoughts? My thoughts are get it done, mate. Yep, get it done. What's the point of leaving a £10 million player in your team who looks like he isn't going to play and then's got a brutal fixture next week anyway? Yeah, move it on, mate. FPL Invincible says, afternoon James, 2 options. A, Shimikas, Fernandes and Ings to Coda, Jota, Ronaldo. Or B, Bruno, Ings, Tony to Calvert-Lewin, Ronaldo. Midfielder up to 6.5, Rafinha, Traore. I don't like selling Bruno Fernandes this week, is the first thing I want to say about that, honestly. I'm not a believer of it at all. I think it's so many options to go from Bruno next week. I wouldn't sell him this week, I don't think, even for Ronaldo. So ideally, my answer to that is neither. Find a different solution if you need to. I mean, you could if you want, right? I'm going to guess you possibly got Salah. Sell Salah this week, go Fernandes to Salah next week. That depends on the luxury of how strong your squad is, admittedly. I think I'd probably prefer the option of moving Shimikas and getting Jota. All Things FPL by Jig says, apparently Premier League clubs going to defy FIFA and play their players this weekend. Thoughts? Well, one interesting theory I've heard knocking about is that there's a rumour that obviously if the Brazilian players were played, then both the team that plays Brazilian player could be given a 3-0 loss, which would be very interesting to see what happens in the Leeds-Liverpool game then, as they've both got Brazilians. How would FIFA deal with that? Did it just deduct them both 3 points? And what do they do? So I think, look, the Premier League aren't going to defy it. They will seek clarity from FIFA that they can go ahead and do it. Knowing FIFA, I wouldn't be surprised if we get an announcement tomorrow morning. Like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. And the players could all go, like, if there's someone in at 3 o'clock and the announcement's made at 11 o'clock, it's not a problem. They'll play because it's not like they're unregistered to the league. So, I mean, he could go very late. I would expect an announcement tonight. And I think in many of the cases, if you take the case of, say, Fred at Manchester United, they'd probably just leave him out, I think. In the case of Rafinha at Leeds, there's a case to say that Leeds would perhaps be better off if Rafinha was banned this week. Because I'd fancy, even without Rafinha, I'd fancy Leeds' chances of beating Liverpool a lot more if there was no Alisson or no Fabinho. So they've got to wait. They won't just defy FIFA. It's not worth it because FIFA has the ultimate authority and can fucking do what they want and can overrule the Premier League, right? So they have to wait. Ryan Henderson says, "Hi James, I'm currently on a -8. Shimika, Son and Ings to Semedo, Jota and Calvert-Lewin. I'm planning on wildcarding in game week 7. Am I as well to just wildcard now?" Could do. I mean, I've thought about Ings to Calvert-Lewin or Jimenez for the extra to go for a -8. But I would need probably Calvert-Lewin to score more than once, I think, for it to be worthwhile. Now, he's capable, but I don't overly fancy that. And that's relying on Danny Ings not scoring. And should Villa get a goal at Stamford Bridge, he's the most likely. Many of you listen to my deadline streams will know. There's no doubt for me. I play Danny Ings tomorrow, even away to Chelsea. There's no doubt about it. Just play him. I decided it probably wasn't worth that extra -4. Titia's Ings has got Everton at home next week, which is not an easy fixture, but it's not the worst fixture either, right? You wouldn't fear it. So at the moment, I'm thinking hold Ings for the 2 and move it to Lukaku, probably a week early, because Ings goes to Manchester United. So there's no point really then waiting once I've got the funds available to move to Lukaku. So I'm probably thinking of going a week early in game week 6, which isn't ideal as I play Man City, but they are at home. I think I'll just go a week early most likely, rather than leave Ings away to Manchester United. That's a personal choice. I decided the extra one, Ryan, wasn't worth it, so I just reconsider that and say, look, you don't like Ings away to Chelsea, I get that, but then Calvert-Lewin's away to Villa next week and Ings is at home to Everton. Which you'd rather have? I mean, personally, in that fixture next week, I'd probably rather have Danny Ings. So that's why I've decided the -4 is not worth it, that extra one. Just reconsider that, Ryan. But yeah, look, if you really want to do it and you hate it, I think -8's okay. -12 is wildcard. Definitely, I think. -8, if it fixes your problems in one go, I think it's fine. The other thing is, if you're planning it short-term, game week 7, I'm not. I'm thinking that I won't wildcard in game week 7. I'm talking about getting Rudiger now, Lukaku in 6, probably going Jota to Mount in 7. That's kind of where I'm at in my thinking at the moment. So I'm looking even beyond game week 7. If you know you want to go game week 7, I'd probably go now and get 2 Chelsea players as part of that wildcard, mate. James Horan says, "Hi James, what is your opinion on the international football qualifiers and the volume of them? Would you agree with a system where teams auto-qualify to reduce the amount of matches like Brazil?" There's no point in no qualifying because you can't have between tournaments no qualifying. I think what would be better is if we had groups of 4 and each team only played 6 qualifying, and that means that some other countries would have to pre-qualify. And they could do that perhaps while the major tournament is going on the previous summer. Perhaps at the end of June. They could have their own little mini tournament for teams to qualify for that sort of thing. You could have more groups of 4. Wouldn't have to necessarily even be 10. It could be 12 groups of 4, for example. That would be better in terms of competitiveness. Like I know San Marinos and Andorras and these nations have every right to try and qualify as much as the next nation. But they won't, will they? Let's be honest. For them to develop, it's just as well for them to play teams that they might have a chance of beating, to then try and qualify. And okay, right, you've earned the right. Perhaps to avoid financial issues, local nations could perhaps play some of these teams. Like, so Spain could play a game against Andorra, a friendly in some point. Italy could play San Marino to give them a little bit of financial boost. No one wants to watch that, do they? England, San Marino and stuff. I feel like I've seen that 20 times and I know what the result is. It's just how many goals will England get. It's not football. I didn't watch England Andorra last week. Didn't even watch it. And I was in the house. Didn't even watch it. No interest in watching that at all. Essence said, hi James, on a wild card, would you rather start with Shaw and switch to Chelsea defence at game week 7, or start with Rudiger, or even start with James but bench this week? Thank you. I would. It's a personal. I'd avoid Chelsea wingbacks. You want the security of the starts. None of them safer than Rudiger. Christensen, should he keep his place, will be worth the saving, and it's not impossible that I would perhaps go Shaw to Christensen in game week 7 if he looks secure, possibly as Piliqueta. One of the things I'm thinking with Shaw at the moment is when Man United's really tough run starts in game week 8, it opens up a little bit for Manchester City. So I'm thinking maybe Shaw to Cancelo, for example, or if there's clarity on Laporte versus Stones in game week 8. That's what I've got in my mind at the moment. At the moment, I think you go with Shaw. Personally, I would. Neil Thompson says, afternoon James, Sky question. Would you prefer Dallas and Dunk for 15.8 or Webster and Rafinha for 15.3? Seems like the 15.3 choice would be better value. Is Dallas a viable option for this game? Thanks. Yes, he is. But by looking at that, even I think when you've written it, Neil, I think the answer's obvious, isn't it? Right in front of you. And for those wondering, Webster could be a very decent asset in Sky Fantasy Football. Rafinha, I'm certain, will be. Dunk will outscore Webster, but will Dallas get near Rafinha? Not this year, I don't think, mate. So, no, that's straightforward for me. Make the 0.5 saving. Don't spend the money just because you've got it. Andre Sosa says, if Brazil players are out, A, Bruno and Ings to Jota, needs to start next 3 weeks, otherwise Sarr instead. Why does he need to start? Plus Ronaldo. If Brazil players are eligible, Mahrez and Ings and Bruno to Sarr, Jota and Ronaldo, -4. Yeah, not really keen on either, mate. As I've said, I don't want to move on Bruno. I don't get it. I don't get the moving on Bruno Fernandes before he plays Newcastle. I really, really don't. I think United could go mental tomorrow. And I don't think Ronaldo's going to get every goal. I would not be moving on Bruno Fernandes this week, honestly. That's my honest advice. Neither. Neil says, afternoon again. Sky again. Antonio in my team. How much should I or are you keeping in the bank to make a transfer off him? Or are you short on swapping the 2 premiums around him? So the plan is, keep fingers crossed that he stays fit. But I've got 1.1 million in the bank in Sky Fantasy, Neil. That's my plan. I've done a full team now and stuff. I need to make a move from Ronaldo to Kane in a few weeks. So I need to leave 0.2 spare. So effective, I've got 0.9 available for anything. Now that actually won't get me far from Antonio. It doesn't get me far enough to a Calvert-Lewin, for example. But it does get me to some premium defenders, certainly. So it might be that I'd even go to 5-3-2, possibly. So there's plenty of escape routes, mate. Andre, just that same question again, mate. FPLD, hi James, Son, Cash and Obafemi to Jota, Cody and Jimenez for a -4 would mean benching Harrison. Thoughts? My thoughts are you don't need to force through the -4 necessarily. Son, Cash and Obafemi. I don't mind the moves though. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, I'd say do it. Do it. The moves make sense, mate. Pedrick Donnelly, hi James, would you take a -4 to get out Son and Shimicast for Jota and Semedo? Already sitting on 3 Liverpool. Thanks. Yes, I'm doing something very, very similar. Paul Spencer, 007, hi James, is Kane to Ronaldo for a -4 just silly? Cheers, mate. No, it's not. Don't think it is. Don't just judge it on the 1 week, and I do think Ronaldo will probably outscore Kane by more than 4 this week. I think there's every chance. Judge it on what's to come. Ronaldo's got West Ham, Villa, Everton afterwards. Kane's got Chelsea, Arsenal, Villa. I mean, over those 4 games each, I think Ronaldo outscores Kane by more than 4, doesn't he? And may do even this week. I think with Ronaldo, for me, it's either get now or don't bother. That's really my opinion. I think he's going to be so difficult to captain the next 2 versus Salah. Then Lukaku's got the great 5 fixtures from 7 to 11. Then Kane's got a great run from 12 to 15. Ronaldo becomes really competitive again from game week 15 for the captaincy, in my opinion. And even then, Kane's got Norwich at home while Ronaldo's got Palace at home, so it's not obvious. One of my ideas at the moment might be to wildcard Ronaldo and Kane in the beginning, actually. It's possibly part of my thinking at that stage. That's a way off, though. I think you go with it, mate. I think if you want Ronaldo, you can get him. I think if I had Kane, I'd go Ronaldo for a -4. If that was viable for myself in my team setup at the moment. Yeah, I think I probably would. Remember, Sonny out tomorrow as well. That's not better for Kane. The only thing it does mean is that obviously if Tottenham do score goals, it makes Kane the more likely to get them because of the talisman nature of both Kane and Son. Kane will get the goals over the next few weeks, more so if Sonny's out for a while, but it'll be a big blow for Tottenham to do without Heung-min Son, that's for sure. Yeah, I think you do it, mate. I think you make the move. It's not a doubt in a hurry. Anybody who knows me know that, but I think you make the move. Robin Richmond says, thanks for all your content as ever. If on wildcard, would you select any Manchester City options? I think yes. I think I'd go Cancelo. I'd take a chance on it. And have someone like Ayling who's constantly kind of first sub. I think that's probably what I'd do. Otherwise, no. There's a case for Ferran Torres, definitely. What I don't like about it is KDB's back tomorrow. He's got a chance. I don't think he'll start, but he's back fit. The game's going to come too soon for Phil Foden, but he's closing in as well. So we don't have the Torres information with Foden and KDB back in that team. And when you look at it and you think Man City's best team, Foden and KDB are in it, aren't they? So what does it mean for the others? Who misses out? So I haven't got the information yet to be taking the punt on Torres when they've got Leicester, Chelsea, Liverpool away at 3 of their next 4 fixtures. So Johnny Pringle's coming on Clash of Correspondence before game week 8 when they host Burnley. And they've got like Burnley, Brighton, Palace. That feels like a better entry point to me. We'll speak with Johnny about it then. And to be honest, that's when I want to look at Manchester City. So I think I'd possibly gamble Cancelo and look at it as a long-term option rather than a short-term. Otherwise, for me, no, probably not. Tom Hyom says, hi mate, Son to Jota is now a lock, but would you take the -4 for Vardy to Ronaldo if Scott Carson were to play in goal? Yeah, you still do it, mate. You still do it. You're going to stick the armband on Ronaldo as well, I presume, if you want to do that. Yeah, you do it. Similar thing as well. What's Ronaldo going to do v Vardy? It doesn't have to be over the 1 game week. What's Ronaldo going to do v Vardy over the next few? He's probably going to outscore him, and that's even in spite of the fact Leicester, unlike Kane, have got 3 good fixtures. Brighton, Burnley, Palace. They're all a bit stingy though, aren't they? Are they going to allow space in behind for Vardy? Nah, I'd make the move, mate. Bad Company says 2 free transfers moving Ings to Ronaldo. These are all very similar. We got any diversity in these questions, guys? Who would you choose as the midfielder, Torres or Saka? Already have Harrison and Jota. On that one, I'd go Torres. I just don't fancy Saka as a fantasy option. To be very honest, I would go for Torres. Dennis Maximoff says, hi James. I want Jota and I have 2 options. Greenwood or -4 Bruno and Calvert-Lewin to Ronaldo and Jota. What do you think? Or I can roll the transfer. Roll the transfer, mate. Honestly, I would not be... If you've got Greenwood or Bruno bin questions, just delete them because I'm going to skip them. I would not sell any Manchester United asset for another one this week. Honestly. Unless it's Dan James who's going to play for Leeds. Good afternoon to Mickey Race. Steve Jones says, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He'll definitely be on the pitch at some point. Cheers, Ollie, you absolute troll. Listen, I wouldn't take it too seriously. Have you actually seen what he said? Go and look at the video of what he said. He's got a glint in his eye. I think he'll start. Brian McKenna, afternoon. If you were Ollie, would you take your best penalty taker off then, Bruno, for a statistically worse taker in Ronaldo? And if so, why? Weak management, if so. You keep Ronaldo happy. Listen, Ronaldo is not bad at penalties. I know he's missed a few. Let's not pretend Bruno hasn't missed some. I can, in my head, I remember a penalty saved by Cole Darlow at Newcastle last year. So he's not infallible himself. I think Bruno's technique is very unique in the sense that sometimes he does the Jorginho and sometimes he doesn't bother with that. So he mixes it up as well. It might be that he keeps Fernandes on it. I just think for Ronaldo, he wants it and he needs it, doesn't he? He's so important to him. Let him have it. Crack on. I wouldn't call it weak management. Because I imagine Bruno Fernandes, I say, take the ball. Callum Robertson says, would you get Ronaldo in this weekend? Well, I can't. But yes. Yeah, I would, yeah. If I was on wildcard, 100%. If I could get him for a -4, I'd get him. Yeah. T. Robinson, do you have any additional insight over Nuno's helpful comments? Did he specifically say Son will miss out? What was concerning about the comments that Nuno made about Heung-min Son was that he said that you'd have to wait for the club to make a statement, and that made me think that the injury was quite serious. Because otherwise the team news will just be regurgitated based on what Nuno said. We know Nuno was pretty unhelpful with team news last year. I can tell you that with almost certainty that Oliver Skipp won't play this weekend. I can tell you that Steven Bergwijn had an ice pack around his ankle after getting substituted for Holland. He's extremely doubtful. Obviously, Sanchez won't play. Romero won't play. Lo Celso won't play. Tottenham go into that game tomorrow walking wounded, and it will be a difficult game at Crystal Palace for us. He's basically 11 fit players play. He's almost where we're at tomorrow already. I wouldn't imagine that Tottenham will take a chance on Son unless he's 100% fit. And part of the reason for that is as well that Bergwijn and Lucas have both shown good form in pre-season and in the games they've played this season. They've done all right. So I think you just go with that. You've got Brian Hill as well, if Bergwijn's out, who's impressed in the Europa League games. I think you'd probably just give him a chance. One alternative might be is to play a back three and play Ben Davies as the left-sided centre-back and move Japhet Tanganga to right-sided centre-back. Just play Dyer in between them as the central of the three, and then just play Lucas off of Kane. That's another option. So there's different things that he can do tomorrow, but it's going to be a difficult game for us. I don't think he'll play, mate. Harry Redmond says, sure you'll get this question. Favourite 6 million-ish midfielder. What's my favourite-ish 6 million midfielder? I've still got Jack Harrison, and I still think he's a great option. Not to buy necessarily this week, but they've got a super run from game week 5 to 10. He offers a competitive differential to Rafinha. A Rafinha who could miss game week 8. We don't really know what the status is at the moment. I suspect by then it will probably be all right. But yeah, honestly, for me, I still think Jack Harrison. He's not in my thoughts to bin at the moment. I didn't have him from the start for the first 4 game weeks. I had him from the start for game weeks 5 to 10. So I'm going to say Jack Harrison. Owen also says, I'm on wildcard and want 2 Chelsea defenders. Who would be your picks? I would go Rudiger and Azpilicueta. Honestly. And if it becomes clear that you can drop Azpi or Rudiger down to Christensen, then you do that as and when. I, at the moment, wouldn't take the chance on the wing-backs. We've got no Ben Chilwell information. I think Reece James would probably be the best of the 3, but then he's obviously unavailable this week as well. And it could well be that Azpilicueta becomes the right wing-back and he plays Christensen, Silva and Rudiger at centre-back. So the wing-backs are, as much as it's exciting, for me it's no different to the pain in the arse with Man City and Cancelo. And Cancelo is extraordinary because of his potential for attacking returns. He looks like he could score in any game. So that's why I would favour that over the Chelsea wing-backs. Shifa says, hi James, thoughts on a -4, Vardy, Ings, Son for Ronaldo, Aubameyang as a 1-week punt, Sarr or Trincao, and which to choose from the guys in the brackets. I would prefer Sarr to Trincao, but you know it's short term. So if you've got other problems that are going to become short term, you need to go to Wolves player, I think. But if you can afford to think short term, I think Sarr outscores Trincao over the next 3. I don't mind Aubameyang as a 1-week punt, but then what? Holler Stamos says Ronaldo and Sarr or Jota and Lukaku for Fernandes and Ings. So here's one. I like this one. So we're going to lose Fernandes and we're possibly saying not even get Ronaldo. Staggering how quick things change because of one player when everything every day during pre-season was you're mad to go without Bruno. Bruno Fernandes is still the same player. Yes, he's probably going to use penalties. Yes, he's probably going to lose some free kicks. Did he score a penalty or a free kick when he scored a hat-trick against Leeds on the opening day? Jack Charlton says, happy Friday, mate. Cancelo or Diaz if you had to choose one? Cancelo for me. I think part of that is I'd never make the downward move of Diaz to Stones or Laporte, and I think it might open up at some stage as well. Cancelo's just more fun, isn't he? Miena says, I took a -8 already and have Son and a terrible bench. Should I wild card? depends how terrible that bench is. I mean, like if you have a Livramento come in this week, it's not desperately bad, but you should bin Son by the looks of it. So I'm going to say yes, activate. Pete Haley says, all right, James, will Ronaldo price shoot up over the weekend with all the transfers as it's been frozen so far? I think I saw, don't quote me on this, I think the price unlocks around about 1 o'clock tomorrow. So none of the transfers prior to deadline are going to count. Then it starts from new. And I guess it's probably a little bit dependent on what his performance is like. If he gets injured, his price will nosedive. Like, legitimately, that would happen. But I think because it's Cristiano Ronaldo, I mean, if he does well this weekend, which I anticipate he will, then the investment will continue to come for him. So, yeah, I would say that Ronaldo probably will be 12.1 this time next week, I would guess. Martin Wang says, hi, James, hope you're good. Jimenez and Rafinha or Traore and Bamford? Definitely Jimenez and Rafinha for me. I think Traore's obviously looked really good statistically and on the eye so far this season. Different challenge now, playing easier fixtures. He's a rare one that falls into the category of easier fixture might not be necessarily good for him. And I just think the saving of Rafinha versus Bamford is great. Jimenez is a long-term sit, forget. So Jimenez and Rafinha for me. FPL Pepsi, if you was on free hit, who would you captain? No, I'm not planning to free hit, just a hypothetical. Cristiano Ronaldo, and there's no doubt about it. Renegade Pasta. Hi, James. Alonso or Chilwell for 1 week punt? It's got to be Alonso, isn't it? Ray Koreshi says, afternoon, James. Have a good weekend, pal. And to you, Ray. Joe Knight. On my wild card, Rudiger, Shaw or Reguilon. Traore, Trincao or Gray. Ronaldo or Lukaku. Ronaldo first. And knowing that no matter what, you go to Lukaku in game week 7. Shaw, for me, from the defensive over Rudiger, not Reguilon. And from the midfielders, honestly, Gray. I'm not big on those two Wolves boys till I see something different. Daniel Podence is back fit as well. And I noticed, forgive me, I forget the name of the player, the new Asian striker they bought. I noticed in Bruno Lage's press conference today, he was saying that he could play in wide positions as well, and I know nothing about the player. So Trincao and Traore, I'm sure probably are first choice, but there's enough threats there in the immediate for me not to like that. So Damari Gray. RW Chris 1983, would you stick with Vardy until switching to Lukaku in game week 7, or downgrade now to DCL and hold the cash in the bank until the Lukaku switch? I would either go Vardy to Lukaku now, or I'd either go there in game week 7. I think part of the strategy, because I've considered starting with Jamie Vardy myself, was because of the whole first 7 fixtures or so. So, okay, you miss Vardy away to Crystal Palace, but you're not so bothered about that. I think we're looking at going next 3. Does Jamie Vardy outscore Lukaku over the next 3? I'd say it's very close. And of course, by not using the transfer, can you use it somewhere else? I'd say no. I'd stick with Jamie Vardy, actually. Optimus Prime says, hello, did you make -8 for Sarr, Saka and Lukaku to sell Buendia, Wilson and Mahrez, Lukaku captain? I think you're asking my opinion as in, would I if I was you? Sarr, Saka and Lukaku. It's a fucking mouthful, isn't it? Sell Buendia, Wilson and Mahrez. You know, yeah, there's enough justification in that. You might regret not having Riyad Mahrez next week, though. Ricardo Raposa says, taking a hit for a keeper, bold. I think I've got to. It also opens up the money for me a little bit as well. I think I just have to accept I made a mistake with Emi Martinez. He's going to lose value. I've got other players possibly losing value who I'm keener to keep at the moment, like Jack Harrison. I think I just have to accept with Martinez that I made a mistake. They've got 4 tough fixtures. Arguably 8, 9 and 10 aren't great either. So you could say it's 7 tough fixtures for Villa. I think just jump off. I'm looking at a longer term before our wild card as well. Probably around about 14, 15. Wolves' great run ends in 14. It's not really effective -4, is it? You would like to think it's effective -2. And then we gamble to get the points, basically. And in any case, like I've said with other ones with Ronaldo, do I think that Sarr will outscore Martinez over the next several game weeks over? My actual thinking at the moment is yes. I think Villa defensively is not great. Less time without the ball, without their £100 million player who could carry it up the pitch for them. Callum Robertson says Smith Rowe is fit and available for this weekend. Is that definitely true, Callum? Because Mikel Arteta's comments yesterday suggested that he'd been in a pretty bad way. And my view on it was it's Norwich at home. He'll probably be a substitute. Lewis James says, good afternoon, James. Think they're going Vardy for 3 game weeks and wildcarding him out for Lukaku in 7 faults. I think if you're buying now, that's different to the previous question. I think if you're buying now, I would just go to Lukaku, personally. Don't fear Tottenham away next week, mate. Whatever you do. Can he score at home to Man City? Yeah, you're not sticking the armband on him for those two anyway. If you haven't got Ronaldo, I think he's probably the best choice this game week. So if you're going now, just go Lukaku. JP says, hi James, dilemma over planned Ings switch. Have 2 free transfers and happy with the rest of the team. But I've lost value, so cannot switch to planned move of Calvert-Lewin. Jimenez or Richarlison instead before game week 7 moves wildcard. Thank you. So we're looking at 3 game weeks here. So Jimenez got Watford away, Brentford at home, Southampton away, Calvert-Lewin, Burnley at home, Villa away, Norwich at home. I'm not keen on Richarlison, so by default, it's got to be Jimenez for me. I'm just not keen on Richarlison as an asset, particularly at the moment, with a little bit of unknowns on kind of what like James Rodriguez's role might be. I suspect he's not going to play often, but fixtures like Burnley and Norwich at home are 2 that he might play in. So Jimenez for me, and I'm pretty sure in Jimenez's case as well, you'll get some of that value back because of the repetitiveness of the strong fixtures that they have. There'll be interest in Jimenez. Jimenez scores this week. Everyone will be going mental for him over the next week or so. And we do think he's going to be able to play. Greg Bennett said, hi mate, hope you're well. Who would you say is the best back 3 to have on wildcard currently? Got Trent, as I feel he's a must. However, I keep flipping between Wolves, Chelsea, Arsenal defenders. If I was on wildcard, I would definitely go Trent. I would definitely go Antonio Rudiger. I think I would go Luke Shaw. And out of stubbornness, I would maybe keep Ricardo Pereira as well. Does that help you with Wolves and Arsenal? I think if you're on wildcard and you want Arsenal, go and get Ben White. I realise that the danger, what you want is to buy him tomorrow hoping that he's dropped in price tonight. Otherwise, I can understand you don't want to get that because you're buying a 4.4 and you know he's probably going to drop to 4.3. But it's a long-term asset. Once he hits 4.3, he'll get the attention of other people. So, to be honest, Ben White from Arsenal, I think the best Wolves choice is Semedo. But I prefer Sarr in goal. I'd highly recommend listening back to yesterday's Clash of Correspondence, Greg. It's only half hour long. Bradley Parker features on that with 6th goal. We speak about Watford and Wolves. He is not keen on Wolves' defence at all, and he watches them every week. He doesn't think the attacking returns will be there for Semedo. And I would pay extra for Semedo over the likes of Cody. So what does that tell you? Jake Powell said, good day, James. What is your score prediction for Leeds Liverpool? 3-1 Liverpool, exactly as I predicted on Clash of Correspondence 8 days ago. Birth Media says, had Vardy for 3 weeks based on something you said in pre-season. Thanks for that advice. Lukaku is in for me now. Don't get them all wrong. There was some theory in it. Well done. Damien Rozalski said, I had a dream last night of Spurs winning the FA Cup versus Sujan Shah's West Ham boys. I mean, that's porn, isn't it, really? Thanks, Damien. I doubt either of us will be in the final, mate. Sheila says, Lukaku, Jota and Semedo in for Bruno, Wilson, Shimikas, -8. Selling Bruno as part of a -8 now, and we haven't got Cristiano Ronaldo coming in. Or Wilson to Bamford, Jimenez. Keep Bruno Fernandes this week. Please, just work it out next week. Are you desperate? The thing is as well, Jota, right? I'm getting him in. But for those desperate, I'm doing it to get him in for a player who's not going to play in Heung-min Son, right? It's done. It's finished. He's out. And I know that I might as well take the hit now, because if I don't take the hit now, I'm going to take it in the future game weeks. But are you desperate to have Jota this week? Does it have to be this week? Bruno Fernandes single-handedly could outscore Lukaku, Jota and Semedo this weekend. Honestly, he could go off. I'm not in agreement with anyone selling Bruno Fernandes for a hit. Alfredo Demetrius, now that Son is ruled out, should I bring in Ronaldo? I have 2 free transfers. No brainer, get it done. FPL telling Josh, hi James, how are you feeling about your game versus Palace without Sonny? Has been a difficult game in recent years with a few low scoring results. It's nearly always low scoring. If we can walk out of there with a 1-0, I'd be delighted. We're getting good at 1-0, so I'll take another one tomorrow actually. I think that's going to be an awkward game. Just as awkward the fact that Davinson Sanchez is not available. I'm worried about high balls coming into the box if we have to play Tanganga at centre back. Ideally it would be better if Rodon played. Then there's possibly a pace issue. There's every chance Emerson Royal will come into the team, but actually I wouldn't mind the idea of Tanganga up against Zaha. I think that's fine. I think Zaha probably plays on the left with Jeffrey Schlupp ruled out. I don't think they'll throw odds on Edouard straight into the teams. I think it'd be the same three that played at West Ham. It would be a baptism of fire for Emerson Royal to go straight up against Zaha straight away. It could be a nightmare for him. But he could do very well. He's certainly a physical player, Emerson Royal, from what I've seen of him. I think it's going to be a tough game. To be honest, I predicted a draw, as you'll see on my deadline stream tomorrow, and did that a little bit on it for the patrons on our differential show game week 4 preview this morning. I've predicted a draw. I don't think under the circumstances, I don't think that'd be a disaster result. But we shouldn't settle for it. We should be going there to try and win. James Brennan says, hi mate, would you say big at the back is feasible this season with a number of premium forwards? I'm thinking Shaw, Diaz, Rudiger and Trent with 2 premium forwards. Cheers, mate. Yeah, you're a similar thinking to me, James. I'm trying to head towards a 4-4-2 at the moment, and the fourth player not being Ayling versus White or even a Semedo. Yeah, no. Players from the big 4, the 4 best teams in this league. And the simple reason for the theory on that is that money is difficult this year because of the premium forwards. And when I compare the likes of Shaw and Rudiger with the availability of players at the same price in midfield and up front, there's no debate. There's no debate. Those defensive assets are better. So I'm better off at playing 5 or 5.5 in the defensive area rather than in the midfield area. And that means going 4.5 forward, 4.5 midfielder. And it means having a first sub. Someone like Luke Ayling, as I said, he's 12th man every week. So if I have someone like Cancelo and he's left out, he comes in, it's reasonable. That's where I'm looking to head to be honest. Will Treeman says, hi James, love the streams, thank you. Would you rather Traore and Ronaldo or Torres and Lukaku? Right now, I think if the option is there for Ronaldo, you should go and buy Ronaldo. That's my honest belief. I explained a little bit earlier my thoughts on Torres, why I'm not overly keen. So, to be honest, anything with Ronaldo. I think right now, for this, if you want to have Ronaldo, as I said several times, do it now. I think you could have put 4.5 million on Ronaldo or Torres and Lukaku, and I still might have said Ronaldo. And then I said you can reassess what you do with the money next week. Ricardo Raposa says, since Tuchel came in, hasn't Alonso got more minutes than Chilwell? Not convinced that's correct. It might be. I don't know. But guess what? It's probably similar, isn't it? If that's the kind of leading point to say, oh, Alonso's going to play more than Chilwell. Maybe he will. But is it enough to justify having him as a fantasy asset? Spanish and Becca. Bruno, we're going to skip this because you're asking about selling Bruno for a -4. Thanks for your question. Jeremy Lawless, hi James. I know you've been quite vocal about Duffy's chances staying in the team. What are your main reasoning behind this? He's been really strong the last month for both Brighton and Ireland. I strongly recommend finding the clip from, I want to say season 5 episode 6, I think, whatever the game week 2 review was, and I spoke at length after Duffy had his haul against Watford about the problem. The main issue is Lewis Dunk wants to play in the position that Shane Duffy is playing, which is centre of a back 3. Lewis Dunk as a left-sided centre-back, average. Lewis Dunk as a sweeper, one of the best in the league in my opinion, and that's simply why. You're not going to move Duffy into a wide centre-back position. So now that Veltman's back fit, and Dan Burns closing in as well, and Tariq Lamptey's back soon as well, if you're thinking Veltman's going to play right wing back, I think Duffy potentially comes out the team as early as this weekend. I'm not certain of it. I won't be surprised if Duffy's in the team tomorrow. But I think possibly as early as this weekend that you might find that it's Webster, Dunk and Veltman. The main reasoning on Duffy is because of Lewis Dunk's positioning. And for more on that, Jeremy, I'd recommend, I'm going to guess about 50-minute mark. But it was the 5:30 game in game week 2. So probably about 7 games into our review, my friend. Brett Davids says, hi James, is Jota worth a -4 or should I just get Torres instead? I would need to get an extra 0.4 for Jota. Well, I can't really answer that, Brett, because I don't really know what you're intending to sell instead to make that work. Can you roll a transfer? What's your situation if you roll it? How does that look? Linish says, hi James, activated the wild card. I love your team, it looks great, mate, but I'm not reading out a wild card team. Kenny says, hi Jamaz, greetings from Kenya. I hope you're good. I am, thank you. Hope you are too. Who would you pick between Sarr, Gray and Ben Rama? I have Antonio. Or which player will you prefer owning with a value of 6.5 below? I'm going to say Harrison again. From the 3 you name, I think, and it's probably personal bias, I'd go to Gray because I'd be wanting to find the money. And I'd have an inward feeling that Sarr and Ben Rama are very short-term picks. And Gray is at the value of some of those defenders that I've mentioned where it could become a swap down the line. So the value line is in a better place. But it's personal influence in that. In terms of who do I think probably scores best from the 3 of them, I think medium term I would say Ben Rama. I don't mind Sarr for the next. Sarr's got a great 3, but I think you've got to know you're probably selling Sarr in 7. And your priorities that week with Liverpool and Manchester City playing each other and Chelsea's great run of fixtures might be that you want to look somewhere else. Can you work it, for example, that if you go with Sarr now, can you leave enough money to go Sarr to Mount in game week 7? Might be something to think about, possibly. Mickey Ray says, Jota or Torres, what would you do? I'm buying Jota, mate. Kevin Sheridan, hi James, I have a choice between dropping Bruno and Ings for Jota and Lukaku or Souček and Ings for Gray and DCL. Please come back to this next week, Kevin, and please leave Bruno Fernandes in your team this week. I can't believe how much it switched where I was like, I'm not having him, and now it feels like I'm telling everyone to keep him. I'm not saying keep him forever, I'm just saying please keep him this week. Cyrus Barnard says, what 3 Chelsea assets are most nailed on a wild card in game week 7 or 8? Lukaku, Rudiger, and then I think it's down to your preference. What's the situation by that point on the likes of Christensen and the wing backs? Or if you need the security, obviously Mount, I think. I think Mount is probably worth the saving on Havertz, would be my instinct, just because of the difficulty of finding money this year. So I will say Rudiger, Mount and Lukaku is the most likely 3. I'm penciling in my mind Jota, even though I'm buying him now, I'm penciling in my mind Jota to Mount in 7. I've made the decision that I think it's worthwhile for me that Jota will outscore Mount by more than 4 points over the next 3 game weeks is kind of what the decision's come to. Ricardo says, sorry, I've skipped one there. NASA says, any idea if Vestergaard plays or is Amati still starting? Just need a point or so from him and avoid taking a hit on Son. So it didn't help having Brendan Rodgers' press conference yesterday. You could have done with having it today because you'd had another day's worth of information. Vestergaard and Johnny Evans were going to be assessed. If either of them are fit, one of them will play. My instinct on the predicted team that I'm going to do for the patrons is that Vestergaard will play. And I think Vestergaard probably has the edge on Evans because Vestergaard obviously had a full pre-season and it's a new injury issue. Whereas Evans is going to be behind everyone else on fitness. And do you want to walk into Man City if it's fitness issues? But I'll tell you what, if Vestergaard's not available and Evans is, I think Evans will play. If you're desperate for the Amati 1-pointer, mate, I suggest there's more important things in life. Ricardo Raposa says, how are so many people selling the best FPL asset in the past season and a half ahead of a home fixture against Newcastle? So it's a very good question, actually, Ricardo. Gary Mantle says, hi, mate. You said you wouldn't sell Bruno this week, but would you captain him? Yep, honestly. If I'd started with Bruno Fernandes, and you'll see this on my deadline stream tomorrow, I've got top Cristiano Ronaldo, second Bruno Fernandes. Honestly, I think he's the second best captaincy option this week. And in fact, I'd just stick the vice on him. And I know we say don't do that in the same game just because of a COVID issue or something. I'd just stick it on Ronaldo, Fernandes vice. Honestly, if I'd end up being in a position where I'd started with Fernandes instead of Salah, and I couldn't get to Ronaldo now, 100% I would captain Bruno Fernandes tomorrow. I'd have no doubt about it. Yogesh says, what did Ollie mean when he said about Ronaldo? We've covered this. Thank you for your question, Yogesh. Martin Boyle, 2 free transfers. Ings and Son to Ronaldo and Gray. Yeah, I don't even need to read the second option, mate. FPL Ralph says, I'm keeping Bruno and Danny Ings this week. What are the odds I will be a happy man come Saturday night? Somewhere in the middle. I think you'll be happy to keep Bruno Fernandes. Do you expect Danny Ings to score at Chelsea? No, you don't. Neither do I particularly. But if they score, he's the most likely. Gabba008 says, hi James, first time watching you live from Seattle, US. Welcome. Hope you're a Seattle Sounders fan. That was Clint Dempsey's old team, wasn't it? What is your level of concern in Calvert-Lewin to playing this week? As in, like, how likely do I think he'll play? At 98%, mate. I think the only reason Calvert-Lewin wouldn't play is if he suffered an injury over the weekend, which is always possible because the game's not till Monday. So 98%. He's been training this week for Everton. There's no issue. Shifo said, in Leeds and Liverpool, if both play the Brazilians, neither will get the 3 points and be given to Arsenal for sympathy. It's a good idea. I had to laugh. The official FPL show put something up. I don't know if it was part of their video malarkey, whatever, or if it was a clip. But someone's done a brilliant screenshot, and apologies, I forget the lovely young lady who was doing the chat. There's an image up in the background of Pookie, and she says, "Oh, now they have 2 easier fixtures in Arsenal and Watford." And I fell about laughing when I saw that. Actually, it's brilliant. I think Arsenal will win comfortably tomorrow. I think Arsenal make 6 changes tomorrow, and I think their team will look so much stronger. And I think they'll probably have a good couple of months, genuinely. Oliver Render, hi James, hope you're keeping well. New patron, thank you very much, Oliver. Don't want to sell Salah, Bruno for Lukaku. I can get Lukaku if I sell TAA for a 4.9 million defender Tierney and upgrade Ings. Wildcard next week, sensible risk. Nah, I think TAA is any game, mate. It's a no for me, I'm afraid, Oliver. I'm not keen on that. I think Lukaku will score tomorrow. I don't think Lukaku will go particularly big tomorrow. Marco Di Stefano, hi James, what do you think of moving Son and Ings to Kane and Sarr and sticking the armband on Kane this week? I think, Marco, you probably know what I'm going to say by now. Scrap Sarr, get someone cheaper if you need to. Just get Ronaldo, mate. Just get Ronaldo. If it's easy for you to get Ronaldo. Don't sell your Man United assets, and if you can buy Ronaldo, buy him. That's it. FPL Ralph, Sky question. Thoughts on going with Saka from the start, even if I'm bringing in Kane for the North London derby? I'm not keen, personally. I realise, Ralph, that midfield area in Sky Fantasy is quite difficult. It is scraping the barrel. I don't mind it. I think I'd actually rather start with Smith Rowe, although there is obviously doubts about him this week. I think Odegaard also might be a better alternative, possibly. Not keen on Saka as yet. I need to see more goals from him in an Arsenal shirt before I'd consider him as a fantasy asset. I think you're better off, Ralph, just forget Arsenal. Make your entry point on the Monday night when they play Crystal Palace. And at that point, you can choose from anyone. That would be my advice. I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I'm not going to say don't get Saka. But I'm not keen, personally. Adam A says, Rafinha or Traore? That's a Rafinha from me. Ricardo says, international tournament qualifiers have had the same calendar for 20 years. Why is this such a problem now? It's a problem now because FIFA want to have the World Cup every 2 years. That's part of the problem. Andy P said, hi James, you're looking fresh. I tell you, I'm fucking sweating to say the truth, but thank you, mate. Good to hear someone with the same ideas on keeping Bruno. Very refreshing to hear. Is everyone else advising to sell him? So we only took him 1 week. Like next week, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say sell him. But this week, it's a keep. Saving to jump on Lukaku wildcard 7. Question, triple Chelsea from 7? Yeah, you're going to want at least 2. 9 Tank 7. Hi, James. Hope you're well. No funny question from me this week. How much money is too much money to invest in a forward line? And how much is too little for midfield? Depends. So, I would say to you that if you wanted to go 5-2-3 and you were going with 3 premium forwards, Ronaldo, Lukaku, Kane, for example, then in theory you could get away with spending only 23, 24 million on your midfield in total. 3 4.5s and a couple of mid-budgets. Now that's not advisable, is it? Let's be honest. I think my strategy is you need 1 premium in the midfield area and you need 1 up front. So that's for the simple reasons that you can move between them. Because as much as everybody seems to want to sell Bruno Fernandes right now, that opinion might change. So if you go without Salah or Fernandes, you can't move across. You can't even getting up to like Son or Jadon Sancho when he starts firing, and he will do at some point, is going to be quite difficult. And it's similar up front. Basically, if you go with Salah and Fernandes, or you go, say, Lukaku and Ronaldo, at some point, whenever you want the premium from the opposite position, you're going to take a -4, most likely, unless you plan your strategy properly in advance with your transfers. And unfortunately, we know this is FPL, and shit likes to get in the way, like injuries and stuff, and your plans get ruined. So I think from a flexibility point of view, you're better off having a premium midfielder and a premium forward. I think if you went with 4-3-3, which I might be thinking of doing, I would advise top end, so 12.5 for Salah, a 7.5, what's that, 20 million, something at around 6.5, 26.5, 2 4.5, 35.5 million. I think it's a reasonable amount to be putting into your midfield at the moment. I hope my maths is right there. FPL Ralph says, Sky question, thinking of starting with Allen from Everton, then moving to Rafinha to cover the single game day. Is it wise to book in a transfer this early, going Sarr over Pickford for context? The simple solution there is go Pickford over Sarr and just go with Rafinha. Your team looks better. I don't know if that's affordable or not, but you want to get Allen in to captain him on Monday night, and then what are you expecting from that? I think for that to be worth it, Allen would have to score. That's a no from me, Ralph. I'm going to finish on this last one from Andrew Tavey. He says, people are sleeping on Bruno. The guy scored a hat-trick with no set pieces first game week. Also got in behind Wolves twice. Scored once, but was just offside. And who are they expecting to set up Ronaldo? Well, personally, Mason Greenwood and Jadon Sancho, mate. But I think Andrew raises a good point. And to close, yeah, genuinely, I don't get the forcing Bruno Fernandes out ahead of Newcastle at home. How are you going to feel if you do it? And let's just say Ronaldo doesn't start. Would not be selling Bruno Fernandes. Getting Ronaldo in is worth the risk. To move it this week for Fernandes, nah. I would not be selling Bruno Fernandes this week at all, personally. That's my view. Alright guys, thanks very much. There'll be another stream tomorrow which will be much faster paced in the last hour up to deadline. That'll be the Game Week 4 deadline stream. That'll be at 10 AM UK time. If you just joined the stream, give me half hour or so. There will be an audio version out of this podcast if you'd prefer as well. Next week, Monday, I can tell you main podcast will obviously be on Monday. We'll go before Everton and Burnley and review the 9 games played over the weekend. Wednesday will be Sky Fantasy Football, obviously. Thursday's Clash of Correspondence, I can tell you, will be Brighton versus Leicester with FPL Seagull and Aaron Lagor. Next week, Tuesday and Friday may be a bit different because Friday is obviously the deadline next week. So I haven't decided yet, but it might be that I do my Ask James stream on Tuesday next week. If I don't do it on Tuesday, I probably won't do it at all because we're doing the deadline stream fairly soon afterwards. And there's only so many of the same questions I can repeat and answer over and over again, kids. Much appreciated. If you want to support Planet FPL on Patreon, please feel free to do so. www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. 22 additional podcasts from intermediate tier and above. For the Sky listeners, we did another 69-minute podcast, Suj's favourite number, on Sky Fantasy Football yesterday, revealing my overhaul draft, which I'm not going to tell anyone about because no one bothered to ask me. But if someone asks me on the deadline stream tomorrow, I will tell you. Next week, we'll have Q&A on Monday. Tuesday, UCL Fantasy preview ahead of the Champions League kicking off on Tuesday evening. Wednesday will be Tottenham. Thursday we'll have a quiz. Friday will be our Game Week 5 preview. There's also additional video content with analysis for advanced tier patrons every weekday as well. And for the advanced tier patrons, they get a detailed stream themselves at 5 PM tonight with the team news stream with my predicted lineups for all 20 teams and detailed analysis of all the important team news from all 20 clubs. That's all for now, guys. Thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Remember to play the game your way. If you want to sell Bruno, sell him. Good luck with that. For the benefit of those on the audio, cue music please, Manchild.